I put my dad in the street against a heavyweight.
I've gone back to the dad. I've punched him a few more times.
5 blokes outside my front door. Can you come and help
One
me?
hell of a fucking story, so stay tuned.
Andrew McCART, IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Everlast. I'm here with the main man himself, Mr. Johnny Nelson. Johnny, I spoke to Adam Smith yesterday and he said we're talking about your fighting career and how he said that you could be a TV man. I'm like, the TV man's kicking up a stir, now he's stirring the pot everywhere he goes, man.
I know, I don't know what that was about. I think they didn't have Adrian, I think they should have found better things to talk about out there in Saudi, but Saudi was an experience. I did get a question, I thought, God, there's more important things going on than what Johnny Nelson did or didn't say. But in saying that, in hindsight, you look at afterwards, and the point I was trying to make was AJ's the kind of fighter that he doesn't want to be an also-ran. He wants to be champion, and if he can't be champion, that's where the problem is. Will he want to hang about knowing I can't be the guy that's in front of me? I think his reaction afterwards that outshone one of his best performances. Because he thought about his intention. He was trying to box well. He boxed strong and put the pressure on Usyk as much as he possibly could. He just wasn't good enough to beat him, and that's something he had to accept. He had to accept that either way. That's twice now. So just say if AJ boxes Usyk 100 times, how many times did he beat him? Maybe once, maybe twice. No, and AJ knowing he did everything he possibly could do to beat this man and his number. This is going to be hard to accept if you're in a division where you're being champion and you want to be champion again. And you know the man in front of you, the chance they're beating are always going to be one step just out of your touching distance. And so the question is, where's his motivation? The question is he happy to be a backing dancer? This was the conversation at the beginning of the week, and at the end of the week, you understood what I was trying to say. So when I'm already saying I want to get him out maybe before the end of the year, I understand that. Eddie's his friend, Eddie's a great promoter, Eddie gets the job done, he's a professional. The question is, for AJ, what's his motivation? Because he's a very wealthy man. He's got a lot of fight left in him. But to get up and take the criticism, to take yourself away from your friends and family, to all the commitment it takes in training camp, and all the criticism you get from the public, to do all that, to commit yourself on that, you've got to do it for a reason. And if your reason has changed, you think, I'm never going to beat that man in front of me, then what is it? Well, what gets you out of bed? Because money's not his God, money's not his motivation. And this is what I was trying to get across, and people just probably get gassed about.
People love a story.
Yeah, they love a story, and trying to say I said something else, I didn't. I think AJ's got a lot of fight left in him. The problem is he's the kind of guy I think he is. He's going to struggle to get his head around thinking, well, why am I doing this? Because I want to be the best. So if Usyk decides to walk away and say, right, I'm done. So if I'm done if I don't put Tyson Fury, then AJ's got motivation. Say, right, I'm back in the mix again. I've got a chance to do it. But as long as Usyk's there, AJ, I know this guy's always there. You know, and that's it. Deontay Wilder's back on the mix again. Tyson Fury apparently retired. So I understand Deontay Wilder's back on the mix because he's thinking, right, this guy's out of the way, I can beat all those guys out there. But as long as Fury's in the mix, he'll always be Wilder's bogeyman. As long as Usyk's in the mix, he'll always be AJ's bogeyman. To stop that dream to say, I can be the best. Because as long as these guys get there, you know you're never going to be the best. So it's that motivation, that want, that desire. And this is what people seem to miss, what I was trying to say.
You alluded a little bit on the aftermath, the rant, the breakdown, whatever you want to call it, immediately after the fight. What did you make of all that? Was that too much pressure on AJ? Was it the back-to-back losses to Usyk?
No. It was frustration because he committed heart and soul to that camp. He did everything expected of him, and when you go in there, you expect to win. Everything else is wrong. It don't add up right. So the guy, listen, there was a lot of emotion involved, and he probably, because he was so emotional in regards to the frustration of losing, which everybody gets, he probably rambled and stepped over what he was saying. When he was trying to say, look, I've been boxing from when I was 18 years old, this guy's been boxing since I was 5 years old. He's basically saying, give me credit for what I've done. I started at 18. Look at what I've achieved in that time. So come on. You know, it's a tough fight. So I went in there, I went the distance with this guy that's steeped in experience. So come on, give me. And I think that's what the message he was trying to get across. upset, frustrated at the attitudes with the belts and everything. I get it all, the criticism, I get it all. This is why this guy cut himself off from social media, you know, because of the negatives that come with the positives. So I understand all that stuff going over. I get it all. So it just unfortunately, I think given time and given the next day, that message would be very different. But I think in the heat of the moment, you're going to say things and you're going to think, maybe I should have put it in differently.
You mentioned 99 times out of 100 Usyk beats AJ, but that old style makes fights. Now, Tyson Fury's came out on Instagram today, got a message to Manuel Charles saying he's got to fight Usyk first. I don't know if you saw that. So, with that being said, when you look at the Usyk-Fury fight, who wins that one? And if that is Fury, is that a better stylistic matchup for Joshua?
So I'm from the gym of unorthodox fighters. So unorthodox is normal to us like in the gym. We get it, we've grown up with it, that's what we get. So what Usyk is doing, you're looking thinking, I get that, I understand that. You know, I'm not foreign to that. An unorthodox fighter against an orthodox fighter, a good unorthodox fighter against a good orthodox fighter, the unorthodox fighter, the good one, beats the good orthodox fighter. With Usyk against Fury, you've got two good unorthodox fighters. But the difference is, one's a frigging unit in Fury. That fights in every which way possible and very unorthodox. I'd lean towards Fury getting the win, beating Usyk, because he has the size, he's unorthodox, he knows what he's doing, he knows what mental and physical warfare is when you're actually fighting somebody, getting up close and personal, using your weight, using the inside of your hand, pushing someone off balance, getting him to complain to referee. He knows all those tricks. This is what you've got to give him credit for, and this is why he's unbeaten. And you've got Usyk, who is a smaller version of Tyson Fury. You know what? That's it. I'll stick to that. Who's a smaller version of Fury, but how far is he willing to push it to the edge where the referee's going to pull you in? So you're talking about that fight. I say Fury has gets a better of Usyk. But fighter A might beat fighter B, but fighter C might beat fighter A.
That's my point. So you're saying what's Joshua's motivation? Maybe the motivation is thinking that Fury beats Usyk, and then that Fury.
Exactly. So that's the question. That's a question that's not being answered by Anthony Joshua in his head. Would I have beaten Fury? Would I have beaten Wilder? You know. So if Usyk disappears and say, right, I'm done with that, I'm not fighting him, then that motivation, that drive is still there for AJ. If Usyk is still in the mix, he's still there. That motivation changes because he thinks, no matter what I do, this guy's there. You know, this is just how I'm thinking from a boxer, an ex-fighter's mentality. I'm not thinking from a TV company. I'm not thinking from Matchroom or Eddie's brain. I'm thinking from a fighter's mentality. So let's just wait. Let time tell its own story, and let's see what AJ himself says, and how he assesses it, how he gets his head around it, how he explains to you what his motivation will be. But to me, I think, you know, he's an honourable kind of guy where money ain't his God. He's got enough money. So it's about motivation, desire. And you've got certain pros that are happy to be a journeyman. You've got certain pros that are happy to be gatekeepers. You've got certain pros that want to be the best. If they can't be the best, like, I'm out, I'm done. You know what I mean? And I think AJ is one of those guys.
Hypothetically speaking then, for me as a selfish boxing fan, you're looking at us from a professional fighter. For me, if I look at it from the boxing fan perspective, I don't want Joshua and Tyson Fury to retire until they face each other. Yes. I think win, lose or draw their next fights, I think
it's a lot of money. It's a big money fight. It's a big money fight. That might be a motivated, but then your goals are different. Then I'm fighting to beat you. I'm fighting for the dough. You know, it's now personal. There's no belts on it. It's now personal. You know, so that might be a great motivation. Look at Carol Brook and Mia Khan. These two guys, that we'd seen the best of them, but they rose their game to fight each other because it was personal. So that might be the other motivation. That's what I'm saying. So you've got to hear what AJ's motivation is when he decides to sit down and speak to everybody. He decides to sit down and try and analyse and assess what happened and what didn't happen.
When you look at, you mentioned Khan and Brook and obviously Mayweather Pacquiao, they waited maybe too long to fight each other.
Yeah,
we don't want to see that with Joshua.
No, we don't want to see it. But you know what? This close to that fight never happening because unfortunately both sides don't trust each other. The fight was almost made and then fell through. Both sides don't trust each other. And this might be the upsetting bit about this. To think, well, you know what, it would have been a great fight. Would he? Should he? Couldn't he? You know, that's just how it is. But again, we can all surmise. But we just got to wait to hear from AJ, see what he's got to say. I know some of his teammate. I'm probably going to try and sit down with him and just do some digging. But you know, AJ's his own man. You know, and so what I said wasn't out of disrespect. What I said was out of common sense, thinking of it from a fighter's point of view. When I was champion, if I'd have lost my title and boxed the guy that beat me, and he beat me again, and I knew I was not going to beat that guy and get past that guy, so my chance of being champion again have gone. I'd just say, I'm out of this. You know, once you've got that in your head. Now you've got champions, fighters that are WBC, IBF, WBO, yes I Birdman. You've got all these fighters that have got various different governing body belts. You know, how many of them actually believe they are the best in the world? Did AJ actually believe he was the best in the world? Did Tyson Fury actually believe he was the best in the world? Because they all have different belts. You know, this is what it is. And if you've got to be arrogant enough to believe you're the best in the world. And if you know you're not, then the problem starts. Where do you go? What do you motivate yourself with?
That's it. It's got a topic of conversation. I think when people see this interview, man, they've got a lot to think about.
I get a lot of shit again, but
I get a lot of shit as well.
But what I'm saying is, I don't mind saying what I'm saying because I can back it all up. I'll sit down and have a conversation with you. I'm not saying this to try and stoke a fire. And you'll get a lot of armchair champions that are trying to say you don't know what you're talking about. You tell me this if you get in the ring. You tell me this if you've got the mentality of a champion. You come and argue with me and have this conversation, because I know for a fact there's only probably a handful of world champions that are out there that believe they are the best in the world. A handful. Even though they've been called ex-world champion, this world champion, only a handful of them believe they're the best in the world. I believed I was. It doesn't matter if you believe me or anybody else believe. I believed I was. So that's why I'm trying to give you that mentality. I believe AJ thought he was. So that's why I'm saying it's going to be hard for him to get his head round what's going on.
Well, we are in Liverpool for another fight week. We'll just quickly segue to a different story.
Yeah.
Liam Smith, Mwakinyo, Hassan and Mwakinyo, tough fighter, unorthodox fighter. Liam Smith, does he get past this? Maybe it's the end of the road, but if he does, big fights ahead.
Liam Smith, 34 years old, former world champion, boxer again, didn't get it. Liam Smith still has ambition to be world champion again. He thinks whatever's gone on in behind in the background, you know, he's thinking I can fix and be world champion again. The opportunities there, there's big fights there for him. Liam Smith knows his opponent. They're familiar with that last part in line was, remember what happened in sparring, that's all I've got to say. His opponent didn't even argue with him, didn't even just try and deny it, he just like swallowed it. Now sparring and fighting are two different things. Liam's the ultimate professional. The chances of him making the mistake and going there underestimating his opponent and thinking this is an easy job because I'm familiar with him. He's not that guy. And he has the intelligence to show respect, to box to the best of his ability, to show the difference in class, to show the difference in levels. And so I expect Liam to probably close this fight down around 8, 10. I expect his opponent to fight a nervous energy the first 2 or 3 rounds, and then reality sets in. He's young, he's ambitious, locked out 3 of his last 5 opponents, so he can bang. Yes, sparring and fighting are 2 completely different things. But unless Liam goes in there and thinks that's a done deal, and he's content, and he thinks I just have to turn up, I don't see it being any other way, but apart from Liam being a winner inside the distance.
Winner of Conor Benn, Chris Eubank Jr. or world title fight next. I know Charles undisputed in that weight class, but talk about him moving up and vacating all them titles. So if you're again looking for a fighter's point, I'm going to ask you: would you take a Anfield fight against Chris Eubank or Conor Benn next? If that's the case, maybe.
If I was Chris.
No, if you were Liam Smith.
If I was Liam, sorry, yeah.
Obviously, 34-year-old, there is that setting yourself up for life.
Yeah, but so again, it's about what your motivation is. Has he heard what Brendan say? F off money, and what's his motivation? Is it about the dough? Is it about picking up the titles? If it's about picking up the titles, I'll say I'll get that and come back and fight for this. I know fighting a Conor Benn or Eubank, you know, there's a lot of money in it. So the temptation's always there. I know for a fact the amount of approaches that Amir Khan's had and Kell Brooks had about trying to entice him to come out of retirement. And it's a hard shout if someone's hanging a 10 million carrot, carrot in front of you, you think, you're going to think, is it about money? Or I'm going to be comfortable with myself? So this is down to Liam. What does he want the most? If that offer is there on the table, yes, it's a big fight, realistic fight. If he really believes he can be world champion again, that's the lane he'll go down. If he doesn't and thinks, you know what, I can take one, then take the other, you know, it's a business decision. It's how he moves it.
Go down the card. Obviously, just talk about Tasha Jonas looking to become unified after probably never thinking she would become a world champion after the Terry Harper and Katie Taylor fights, but now looking for a unification. And just talking about Dan Azeez and Shakan Pitters, all British title fight.
So
everyone loves a British title fight.
So Natasha, you've got to give her credit where credit's due. She had a chance of fighting on an iconic bill next week in London, and she chose to pay her fans back and fight here in a unification fight, a total unification fight here in Liverpool. So you've got to give credit where credit's due, because this young girl could have said, no, I'm going to do it another way. From a career, when people say she's past her best, she's slipped up. Now she's in a chance to unify a world title at home in front of the fans. The fans have got to give her proper credit for that, for making that call, because she could have happily boxed on the bill next week, and it would have slotted in really well, made it even more exciting. But she didn't. Dan Azeez, that fight, again, I said earlier on, you know, you look at the fight with Hagler and Hearns, and I'm not saying this is going to be like Hagler and Hearns. What I'm saying is the tactics have got to be the same. He's got to draw Pitters into standing there and having a tear with him, because he's giving away height, he's giving away reach. The obvious shot from Pitters is bring the long uppercuts up, the long lever shots, and keep him off long, keep him on the jab. The longer the fight goes, the more it suits him. Dan's got to talk him into a tear-up, because if he talks him into a tear-up, that fight is a hard fight, but it makes it for him a fight it becomes easier. But it's going to be painful for both fighters. This is that fight where people say it's going to steal the show, and I believe that you've got a champion against a former champion. You've got a fighter that's a throwback to Marvin Hagler. Another fight has got the build of Thomas Hearns. So again, I love that fight, absolutely love it, and I think the longer the fight goes, the more you'd have to side towards Pitters. But I think Dan's going to drag him into it, because when you get tired, you know, you can't move anymore, and a man's on you, putting pressure on you. That's when it gets exciting.
Again, change subject quickly. One last one for me. I've seen on your Instagram, you put up a great video, Brendan and yourself in the corner, and the way he was talking, big bang pop from the jab out, man. I love that, man.
We understand that language.
Yeah.
There's no old school trainers left like Brendan, and that's why putting it up, I just think, you know what, I've got to get it. I don't want people to forget, there's no old school trainers left. You've got all these guys that are learning and they're coming through, and I'm quite sure in 5-10 years time they'll have the right to say I'm one of the best trainers out there. You got guys that are getting that tag of Brendan was a proper coach. I don't just mean when the bell went or when you turn up at the gym. I mean, like, he taught boxing. It was a lifestyle. He made you think and understand where he's coming from. How he motivated me was different to how he motivated Nas. It was different how he motivated Harold Graham. It was different how he motivated Ryan Rose. This guy was an original, and he was one of the few good trainers left in this world. And you've got to wait another 10, 15 years for coaches to get that accolade, to give them that respect, to think an original. I mean, there's one or two out there, but not to that level. Brendan was. I was fortunate enough. I was God blessed to be taken under his wing and to be one of his students. And so that's why I think with Brendan, you know what, there'll never be another Brendan. Never.
Well said. And if you want to see that video, just go on your Instagram.
Yeah.
It's the top of the feed there.
Go on, and that's what I'm saying. This is about giving credit where credit's due and homage to Brendan.
And so that was a perfect way to end this interview. Johnny, thank you so much as always for doing this IFL TV, and we'll see you tomorrow night at Fight Night.
Anytime.
Thanks, Johnny.
Yeah, I put my dad in the street against a heavyweight.
I've gone back to the dad. I've punched him a few more times.
There's 5 blokes outside my front door. Can you come and help me?
One hell of a fucking story, so stay tuned.